So this seems like such a great example of trying to recreate something that happened that you might not have footage for, and how do you show that? And could you talk a little bit about the creative process of why you decided to use animation in this essence to help tell part of your story?
Yeah, I think so. The first clip you saw was, John Crow. He was a diver, 1970s. You saw he was one of the people responsible for kind of directly like laying his hands on killer whales and capturing them. And these whales that they captured in a number of these kind of roundups are the whales that make up marine parks today. So it's kind of this important historical event. And I had seen the 70s footage of some of these captures. But all you really see are the, killer whales and they're being rounded up, but it's sort of hard to explain. You can't understand really the gravity of what's going on. You're looking at this footage and instinctively it's not right, but you can't figure out, it's, it looks like a cattle roundup or something that's like, it just doesn't quite feel right, but you're not, you can't put a finger on sort of what's depraved about this. And so they're putting these rings around their heads, and that part is awful. But there was like minimal audio in the video. And so when I started interviewing people and people who were there at the time, and they were describing what it was like, I realized I finally understood kind of what it means to capture this animal or to confine this animal. Because I didn't, again, I'm not an animal activist. So when I started this film, I kind of needed to learn all of this from the ground up. So when I heard that there was, in the roundup, that the whales went two separate ways, and essentially the male whales were acting as a decoy, and sort of sacrificing themselves by swimming on the surface and telling the boats, hey, come over here and capture us. And then the females, and that gave a chance for the females and the babies to swim underneath and not stay on the surface, so they could kind of hide and swim into this Pen Cove. It was a game changer for me. I just couldn't believe that this enormous pod could kind of make that decision instantly and could do this. So for me, it was just, I kept asking him over and over in the interview, is this like what really happened? These animals kind of communicated this, in a split second, we're able to do this. And, time after time, everybody said, you really, didn't you know these animals are really intelligent? And I guess that was the moment where I understood sort of how intelligent. So, I knew I had to visually somehow depict that moment because it sort of meant so much to me. So then it came down to talking to the animator about it. And that was a really humbling experience because I just don't have the language, I think. You know what I mean? I don't have the shorthand. I don't know what to say except, I don't know, Sid worked on my title graphics, so I'm sure he could also attest to that. But, I would just sort of describe what I wanted to see. And I would just sort of say, wouldn't it be cool if it was kind of like parchment, like paper. So, I had this idea for the animation for the historical sections that it was like, kind of like an old map, that you were looking at, and it felt like a parchment-y quality. And then, so there was going to be something organic and a little bit earthy about it, but yet I wanted it to be clean. And so anyway, this is how I was talking about this. Parchment
animation.
And clean.
That's helpful
but
to you,
really
right?
organic.
You know what to do at that point?
Really organic, right? Don't you know? Couldn't you just do that in your sleep right now? So anyway, so it was a back and forth, where I think, it's this like dance that they end up doing. You have something in your mind. They say at some point, they just sort of have to cut you off and sort of say, let me give it a shot based on what I've gathered from the chaos you just expressed. And let me just give it a shot. And so, we went back and forth a little bit, but I was ultimately very happy with that, the aerial, because I think it was the first time that I think people saw, They actually were hearing what was happening and then visually seeing these two animals, the groups of animals split off. And that was really all I wanted.
What was the process like of deciding what the visual treatment would look like, the illustrative style? Did you send him samples or references? Did he give feedback on those?
I didn't have any reference. No, I didn't send him any references. No, I didn't have anything visual that I could get my hands on. I just had like ideas of like treasure maps and total unhelpful bullshit. Like that I was like, this is clearly going to just launch him into understanding what I'm thinking. And it was just like, no, it was just really goofy. Yeah, so I sort of realized like, clarity was not my strong suit with this. But I was ultimately sort of happy with what I guess he came, what they, they're called o.d.d, o.d.d, and they're out of New York and LA, but a great group of people. So I thought I was happy with what they did.
Cool.
Yeah.